much time do I have?
Another 40 minutes, actually.
Huh?
40.
40. Oh, good. That gives us plenty. Listen, that gives us plenty of time for Q&A.
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't keeping track of the time. Usually, I go over time because I talk too much. So, and actually, Brother Hisham, I want to hear what you have to say. So, what do you suggest?
Okay, maybe we can do Q&A because then we'll go for the break about 10:30, which is about half an hour.
You want to do some Q&A now?
We can go for the break earlier. It's okay.
No, the food's not here yet.
Okay.
The food's not here. Okay. So okay, no choice. Q&A then. Okay. Now, this section also has quite a lot to follow, but I think I can manage to get through that without too many difficulties. So why don't we just do some Q&A now, while what I've just shared with you may be fresh on your mind. So if you have any questions, please let me have them now, and I'll try to answer them as to the best of my ability. If there's something you want me to explain a little bit more, that maybe I've got you interested in something, I'll be happy to do that because we have some time. Okay, anybody? Yes, sir.
What do you think is the future of this new world order? I mean, what's going to happen later on? Is it going to be fixed or?
Well, I don't see things getting better. Do you? Does anyone here see things getting better? Despite what your leaders are telling you or not telling you? No, I don't see any reconciliation between those who are seeking after the cause of Allah in the earth and those who are seeking after the cause of Iblis, or the cause of selfishness. There's a divide, there's a gap between the two polities, the two groups, and this gap grows ever wider. In the Judeo-Christian scripture, it is called the abyss. And the abyss is likened until this famous place in southern Arabia, close to Yemen, called the Rub al-Khali. It's the empty quarter. It's the abyss, this gap between truth and falsehood. And this gap is going to grow and grow and grow. And the numbers of people who are going to be following falsehood are going to increase and increase and increase, and that includes Muslims. The Prophet made it very, very clear that that's what was going to happen, and it is happening. We see it now, all over the world. So this gap is going to grow. What's the future? It's going to get so bad, and Imran Hussein is the expert on this, not me, okay, as far as the eschatology is concerned. But it's going to get so bad that you have to bring to mind some of the things like the Prophet himself said, okay? When you see these things happening, and you cannot stop it by your hand, your word, or your prayer, he said, go out and sit in the woods and chew on the bark of a tree until you're dead. Why? Because if you don't, you're going to wind up becoming a murderer. That's how bad it's going to get, my brother. And that's why Sheikh Imran is putting together these little Muslim villages so that people have a refuge. There's a reason for that. So that you withdraw from the majority of people who are involved in this system. All over the world. I don't care what country you're in. This system is going to get progressively worse. The world, the environment is getting progressively worse. There is no answer. That is why Hadrat Mahdi and Prophet Isa must return. Because there is no other legitimate, authentic ruler. We don't have any Salahuddins left amongst us. I don't care how many brave Muhajirin, you see. Bravery doesn't mean you're being anointed or you're being protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially if you're killing other Muslims. Yeah? No, these people are like, they're like a crowd, a herd, a buffalo running over the cliff. So it's not going to get better, it's going to get worse. There's going to be more fitna, more murder, and murder on a scale that you cannot even imagine. It's coming. It's coming. So, in answer to your question, no. All we can do is the best we can where we are, and we use the provisions under our right hand to protect what Allah has given to us to protect. Yeah? Has Allah given to you to protect something that is not according to His word, according to His Sharia, according to His directives? No. But you have children, you have family, you have knowledge, you have skills. All of these are to be protected. Protected. Yeah? That was what Noah did. That's why I used him as an example. He went out to his community, he said, "Stop! This is a myth. It's not true. I'll tell you what's true." And they say, you're telling us a bunch of lies. And Noah made prayer, and Allah said, "Go build the ark. Withdraw. I'll protect you." If you're looking for the government to protect you, you're making a mistake. So I'll leave that question. I'll leave the answer right there. Okay? Any other questions? Yes, sir. Use the microphone, please.
Could you please elaborate on the crescent and the star?
How
it came into Islam?
Okay. The star and the crescent. The star represents the sun of a solar system called Sirius. It's not our sun. Most people who participate in the sun god worship that the Christians like to celebrate on Christmas Day, they think the sun is our solar system. But no, it's not. It's the solar system, the central star for this star system called Sirius, which is far, far away. It's in this galaxy, but it's far, far away from here. And the Egyptians called it the dog star. The dog star, because it would arise during their time of the dead of summer. And those were called the dog days because it was so hot. Nobody wanted to move, okay? So it was called the dog star, and with good reason, because not just because of the summer, but because it's the servant of Satan, as I said, and in the occult circles, if you're a Satanist and you have servants or slaves, you call them dogs. You call them dogs, okay? And they even have ancient idols with dogs worshiping the phallus. Yeah? You can find them today. So that system, that's the star. The moon refers to the ancient sun god of Sumer, and his name was actually Sin, S-I-N. Sin. And that's why you have many Christians, they know this, because many of them know more about eschatology than you do. And when they see this moon and star, and they see as the Islamic banner, they say, see, they worship the moon god, Sin. And they can say that legitimately, because that's what the symbol represents. It does not represent Islam. It never did. The Prophet and the Sahaba did not use this symbol. It wasn't used for almost 1,000 years, or 800 years, something like that. The Ottomans brought it in, and the Ottomans were not Islamic. They were Muslims after a fashion, but they were certainly not Islamic, especially their caliphate. The Prophet said, oh, my sunnah is marriage. They did not practice marriage. They practiced concubinage, which is not very different. Yeah? All of the caliphs, Ottoman caliphs did that. So they brought this symbol in to Islam. Did they do this on purpose? You bet. Were there Jewish magi in the Ottomans? You bet. Were they Bani Israel? Not necessarily. Not necessarily, because by then the Khazarians had converted to Judaism, and they had completely infiltrated the Eastern Orthodox Empire at Constantinople. So by the time the Ottomans were there, the courts and the upper elite system were totally infiltrated by mystery religion magi. And where did they get their symbols? And they all got these symbols from the east. East of Eden, across the other side of the Euphrates. The other side of the Euphrates, not this side. Yeah? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the decree to our Prophet to establish his kingdom in the Holy Land, in Arabia, that there was a boundary there. And you can find these boundaries in the books of Musa, from the Nile to the Euphrates. That belongs to the Arabs. Beyond? No. Beyond belonged to east of Eden. It's a land of Cain. Now, could they be converted? Yeah. But should the Arabs have ruled over them? No. It's not their land. And when they ruled over them, what happened? Political strife, fitna. Remember when the first Arab armies went across the Euphrates, where this moon god symbol was born? What happened? They were turned back twice. Their first defeats were suffered at the Euphrates. They should have learned a lesson, but they didn't. They were stubborn. They wanted what was on the other side of the Euphrates. They weren't interested in converting people to Islam. They were interested in converting all of that wealth to their own. That's the system that the moon and the star represent. It's imperialism. That's what it is. And it's almost on all of our flags today, supposedly representing Islam, right? Because the Sumerian kingdom that used this symbol as part of the royal kings of the earth iconography, they were imperial. They went to conquer all of that area, and it eventually became Babylon. And they conquered Persia. They conquered what you call Iraq today. There was no Persia. There was no Iraq. It was all part of the ancient Sasanian Empire. That's where the symbol comes from. And so what happened? What did Iblis do? When the Arabs crossed the Euphrates, he said, oh, Allah, see, they've gone against your will. Yeah, see, they want their brother's house. They want his women too. They want his wealth too. What are you going to do about it? I have an idea. Let me give them the star and symbol as their symbol, the star and crescent as their symbol. And this will convert them to my belief. Allah says, okay, let them go. Do it. But my people you shall not touch. So who's that mean? Who does that mean? My people you shall not touch. It shall have no power, no authority over. Huh? Who are my people? My people are the ones that follow the sunnah of the Prophet. And what was the first word to the Prophet? Read. Read. Learn. Study. Why? So you cannot be fooled by the star and the crescent. Is that clear? Did I answer your question? Alhamdulillah. Any other questions? Sorry, you're next. Are all Sufi orders sects? Does Cubism link to any of this? Cubism. You mean the art form?
Yeah, the art form.
Okay. First, let me talk about the Sufi sects. First of all, let me say something from the outset. I am not an Islamic scholar. Okay? I don't have the traditional Islamic training such as someone like Imran Hussein. So I'm not the best qualified to answer this question. But I'll tell you this. There were no one used the term Sufi until about 200 years later after the Prophet. Okay? Now, what did the Prophet say about the people who followed him? He said, this generation is the best, the next generation is okay, and the next generation, they're satisfactory, and the generation after that, it's gone down. It's about 200 years later. Now, when you talk about Sufism, you can talk about sects. There are sects that are professed to be Sufis, and there are sects that do not profess to be Sufis. Let me answer this way. Yes, there are Sufi sects can be sects, exactly. What is a sect? It's somebody who identifies themselves with a name that separates them from the rest of the people. All right? Is that what the Prophet did? No. He didn't do that, did he? So, that should answer your question. Okay? Now, there's nothing wrong with seeking piety. Nothing wrong with that. But even Imran said one day, correct me if I'm wrong, he said, oh, I wish that word Sufi was never made. I wish the word didn't exist. Yeah? Because of the strife it causes. Remember at the beginning of my lecture? Fitna? Huh? If you're separating yourself from the Ummah and you're causing fitna because of your separation, I am holier than thou. Look at me, I've got a big long tail off my turban, and my robes are very long, and I walk slowly, and I drink with my right hand, and I eat with my right hand, and so I'm following the Sunnah, and I am a better Muslim than you. No, I'm going to tell you who the real Sufi is. The real Sufi is the one that doesn't tell you they're a Sufi. Is that simple, straightforward, common sense? You bet. You bet. So I tend to stay away from people who like to identify with anything other than the term Muslim. You know? When I first became a Muslim, people say, oh, I hear you become a Malay. I said, what? It's still white. How can, no, I'm a Muslim. Okay, yes, there are degrees of piety within the way of life called Islam. Yeah, I accept that. And some people are better than others. I accept that. But I don't like this political separatism. Okay, I don't like that. I don't think Islam should be dealt with in that way. Islam is eclectic. Islam is universal. Islam embraces all people. It doesn't practice asibiyah or asabaya, tribalism. Careful. Now, Cubism is an art form. Okay? It can be good, it can be evil. It depends upon the heart of the artist. Okay? It can be either. Enough about that. Okay, brother, you had a question.
My question is regarding materialism and mental enslavement.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Materialism and mental enslavement.
Materialism?
And mental enslavement.
Mental enslavement. Okay, go ahead. I'm hard of hearing, so I'm getting closer to the speaker.
Because today the media become the mainstream channel.
Closer to the microphone.
Okay. Because today the media become the mainstream channel of putting all this, the mental and material enslavement, which it becomes the metaphor for the people around the world. And since every day when they talk about these issues, it comes in the form of conspiracy, problems, and theories to how to control the people, land, and location. So when we go into the media or we follow news and information, how are we going to figure out which one is the real one? How do we stay away from this? Which one is conspiracy theory?
Oh, good question. My answer is throw away your television. I'm serious. There is no caliphate. Okay? So without a caliphate, without the divine order that comes from a true caliphate, the elitists are uncontrolled. They do not answer to anybody but themselves. And as I've demonstrated to you in my recent lecture, their self, this rule by the elite, they're totally selfish. So the whole purpose of the media is to control the masses through this propaganda. Propaganda doesn't mean just information for your harm. It can also mean information for your good. You can say that what I'm teaching this morning is a form of propaganda. Yes, it is. I'm teaching you how they have used propaganda to harm you and harm your parents and people came before you, and how it's being used to harm the entire world right now. That's a form of propaganda. So just like Cubism, propaganda can be good, it can be bad. It depends upon the heart of the source. Yeah? And it depends upon the quality of the information that's given. Yeah? So it doesn't depend upon whether or not you receive it. Propaganda is propaganda, whether you view it or you don't review it. So when I say throw away your television, I say throw it away because there's no way for you to control what is on that tube, what comes out of it. All right? So especially if you're going to let your children sit in front of it while you do something else. You let your television babysit, you're letting Iblis babysit your children. That's what you're doing. It's an irresponsible act because everything that comes out of that television set is a form of propaganda that is meant to mold your opinion and to create a bias or to endorse the bias that is already there, that's been implanted from your youth. What can you do? There's nothing you can do. Nothing can be done against this except turn it off. I don't have a television in my house. I haven't had a television for 16 years. I threw it out a long time ago, even before I became a Christian missionary. Okay? I threw it away because I knew what it was doing. I saw this as a matter of, well, neurological science. Because it creates an imprint on the brain. And that's why you see the same commercials over and over again. Yeah? Because they're trying to imprint on you and upon your children, go buy this, go buy that, it's good for you, it's good for you, it's good for you, buy this, you really need it, so-and-so said it's good, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And by the time you get up and you go to work and you see a sign and say, oh, I'm going to go buy that today, I'll stop by on my way home and I'll buy it, try it out. Do you need that thing? No. Do you really want that thing? No. You've been hypnotized. That's what it does. It's a form of hypnosis. It's subconscious suggestion. It's a form of hypnosis. And so when you're hypnotized, you are submitting your will to the will of somebody else. That's what the television does. So I don't watch TV. I like to watch movies, though. Okay? So I do have the internet, and I download movies, and when I'm tired of putting together my next speech or my next book or whatever it is I need to complete a different break, I will watch a movie. I particularly like historical movies that recreate bits and pieces of history. So in answer to your question, throw it away. You cannot defend your children against this thing. You cannot defend your wife against it. Women are more susceptible to it than men are. All right? Why? Because, well, we have to have a workshop on that, okay? Because the men work and the women shop, okay? And they look at the media and they get this thing and they want to go shop for that thing because they already want to shop. Yeah, women love to shop. They already want to shop. And then the media gives them more reason to shop more. And they say, oh, how many times when my wife comes to me and she says, look, I just saved you 20 ringgit. Huh? It cost you 30 ringgit to drive there. Yeah? But she's so happy because she thinks she's saving me money. Yeah? I don't argue with her. It's not good for marital relations, you see. But there's this what happens. So you cannot control this thing, brother. You cannot control the media. The media is in the hand of Iblis. And I don't care what they say otherwise. I don't care how high and mighty this Dato or Tan Sri or whatever they are, say. It is in the hand of Iblis. And their whole purpose is selfish. To gain more wealth for themselves. That's what it's all about. And it's at the cost of your benefit. Okay, any other questions? Sorry? Okay. Mike, you're next. No, after him.
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Going back to the moon star symbol.
Yes.
Regarding it, I don't know if we all know, it lies almost amongst all mosques, especially in Makkah al-Mukarramah.
Yes.
In the Bayt itself.
Yes.
The moon star symbol is there. So is it that our scholars are misled or lack of, that they are not informed of its interpretation?
Well, if they have chosen this, now I said I'm not an Islamic scholar, so I don't know. But let me say this. If they have chosen it and they have not given you the information I just gave you, it's unbalanced. Okay? It's unbalanced. Because I just told you, its use is unbalanced. Because the Christians see that and they say they know, the Christian scholars know where it comes from. You see? So if our scholars have not counterbalanced this, and the Christians are standing there and see, you worship the moon god of ancient Sumer. Maybe our scholars don't know about it. Okay? So I don't know what the writings of the scholars is about the symbol, but I know where it comes from. Okay? I know its origin is it's not Islamic. Its origin is not Islamic. That star and symbol can be found 5,000 years before the time of Isa. And it was used contemporarily, and up to this day, it is used by pagans. It's even used by Satanists in their ritual. So why would it be on our flag without the scholars telling us that that's where it came from? You see? If they only choose one source, and they tell us just one source, where it came from this place, and this is why we use it because of such and such and so, and Sahaba said this about this, but they've never mentioned its use as a pagan icon or an idol, then they're ignorant, you see. So I don't know what their apologies are. I've never looked at their apologies for the use of it, quite frankly, because I know where it comes from. It's pagan. Now, if they want to use this, they have to say, why? Why is it being used? Because it's a point of contention, it's a point of confusion amongst people who know. Most Muslims don't know about these things, but people in the West know. Scholars in the West know. And they may know that it's being used innocently by Muslims, but they won't tell their Christian congregation. They'll just say, yeah, see, I told you they're idolaters. Now, would Allah permit such a thing? I don't think so, because it brings harm. It brings harm to your reputation as a Muslim. To use a symbol that is associated, frankly associated historically, with pagan idol worship and pagan kings of the earth who practice blood sacrifice. So I hope that answers your question to the best of my ability. Okay, Mike?
Assalamu alaikum. I suspect that the scholars probably haven't actually learned about the starlight present, a bit like economics.
Yes, a bit like economics, yeah. Yeah.
About the Shia, I can understand and accept that the Shia schools are run by a number of people with knowledge which we don't know and are using these sects for evil purposes and so on. But the ordinary Shia in the street, is almost, to me, in my eyes, just like the ordinary Sunni.
Yeah.
These are just people who believe that they are trying to do good.
That's correct.
And so on. So I don't think we should, or anyone should, discriminate against them. When we have people like Sheikh Qardawi saying it's okay to kill Shia, when I heard that, I was appalled and enraged.
He's Sunni?
Disgusted.
He's Sunni?
I think he probably calls himself Sunni.
Okay. Whatever.
So could you comment on the ordinary Shia and the way that, particularly in Malaysia now, there seems to be a campaign against people who believe they are practicing Shiaism?
Okay. Well, look, let me explain it this way, because it's easier for me to explain it from a Western perspective than from an Oriental perspective, because I'm not an Oriental. Okay, so I want to answer this from my heart, as well as from some knowledge. I was born and raised a Catholic, and all of these symbols are used in the Catholic ritual worship one way or another. And do the Catholics, the ordinary Catholics in the pew who go to church and celebrate this blood sacrifice called the Mass, do they understand what they're doing? No, not at all. They're basically good, honest, hard-working people who enjoy their sin. And they get to go to church every week. They get to go to confessional every Saturday, just like Muslims get to go to Jum'ah every Friday to get their sins forgiven. Okay? Catholics go to the priest, and then they go on with their normal sinful lives. So I imagine that the Shia are just like them, no different. And they don't look into these things. They don't look into the origins of the doctrines, some of which I'll get into the second hour later today after Brother Hisham gives his representative. So no, I don't think there should be a civil war. I don't think we should be bashing the Shia and killing them. And I don't think they should be doing the same thing to us. But when you have the enemies of the cause of Allah coming in to take advantage of this divide between the Shia and Sunni, they are creating the civil war. I mean, now for centuries the Sunni and the Shia lived side by side without any difficulty. It's only with the advent of Zionism that this has become a problem, especially over the last 20 years. Now they're actively killing each other. Are they doing this because of religion? No, they're doing it for purely human reasons. It's the same thing that you go to a Catholic neighborhood, you got the mafia here, you got the Italian gang here, you got the Spanish gang over here, you got the black gangs over here. They will kill each other not because of religion, but because of a social identity. Not because of religion. They'll kill each other and then they'll go to church to get, I'm sorry, Father, I killed somebody yesterday. Please, the Father says, okay, 5 Hail Marys and 6, then you can go get communion tomorrow. By the way, tell the Godfather I want to talk to him. They have this kind of relationship. It has nothing to do with the truth of their religion. It all has to do with social identity, which is why my previous wife, when I became a Muslim, her family threw me out because I became a Malay. And the Malays are the traditional enemies of her tribal identity. She was the Dayak. Okay? And the Brunei, I don't say, the Brunei people had been persecuting her people for 500 years, raping and pillaging, and, they don't put that in the history books, do they? You didn't learn about that, did you? That's because they don't want you to know. You see? They want you to salute the red, white, and the blue. Yeah? Is that an Islamic flag? I don't think so. All right, so this has to do with social identity, Michael, not religious identity. The religious identity is being manipulated by the elite. When the Catholics wanted to gain the ascendancy here, they said, oh, okay, let's start using the word Allah. Yeah, let's see what these stupid Malays are going to do. Yeah, so they make it an issue. And they cause division, and they want to embarrass your leaders because they're ignorant. Yeah? They know exactly what they're doing. They push the rock to cause an avalanche. And that's what's taking place. Now they've passed another law. If you're not Muslim, you can't use the word. Is that historically accurate? No. Christians have been using the word Allah for centuries, all over the world. But in Malaysia, you're not allowed to use it. So is this a religious ideation? No, it's a social identity ideation. Okay? It's the practice of asabiya. It's a practice of Malay tribalism. That's what it is. Why? Because they're competing with other tribes. They're competing with the Chinese triads. All right? Anybody know about the Chinese triads? Oh, see how much you don't know? Yeah, the Chinese mafia. Right here. Right here. Okay, but I'm getting off the subject. But I bring that up because it's a social identity. The Ismailis, they had their own mafia. They had their own mafia called the Assassins. Yeah. They had their own godfather. Used the same words that the triad chief used. Same title, King of the Mountain. King of the Mountain. This is the ancient Chinese term. Comes from east of Eden. It's not Islamic. But it's a mafia term. They use control of capital punishment. They decide who lives and who dies. Even if they don't have political power. Just like Hassan al-Banna. Okay? He decided that that policeman that was going to die. So he had him killed. Was that a religious war? No, it was not a religious war. Was it done in the name of religion? Yes. Did he have authority to do that? No. He was illegitimate. So what happened? He was, in turn, murdered by the same authority he attacked. All in the name of religion. Does this have anything to do with religion? No, it has everything to do with social identity. My gang is better than your gang. I got a t-shirt, says so. Okay? That's what it is, Michael. And getting back to the ordinary Shia, they're just common, ordinary people who are being misguided. Just like the Sunnis who were following the Wahhabis, whoever's following any kind of a sect, a Bomo, they're just common, ordinary people who are being misguided. Yeah? Misguidance is misguidance. It's repeatedly talked about in Al-Quran, and I've just described for you in the first lecture how to recognize misguidance. It's not rocket science. It's very easy to do. So when you realize that your own people, as well as the competing tribe, are misguided, you lose your moral high ground, don't you? And you say, oh, I'm no better than them. Look, I've been saluting that flag and giving my loyalty to illegitimate leaders for a long time, all my life. What an idiot I am. Yeah? I did the same thing years ago when I realized that. We've all been fooled. It's part of the test. Life is a test. It's a test to see whether or not you can tell the truth from falsehood, whether or not you can overcome that gap. Most people aren't trying to do it, but you're here because you're trying to do it. Alhamdulillah. And I'm here because Allah's made it possible for me to help people like yourself to overcome this gap. Yeah? I had one student online just write to me and say, oh, I hope I can see you. I hope I can see this because when you talk about it, he said, it makes sense. He said, it's better than when the mullah talks. I don't know what they're talking about. Yeah? Well, the mullah is regurgitating, repeating what he's memorized, but he doesn't comprehend it. If he doesn't comprehend what he thinks he's memorized, how can he comprehend what's actually taking place in the street, especially if he doesn't know history? One of the first things that impressed me when I was a new Muslim, just a few years ago, I started asking questions. Well, what about this in history, and what about that? And your imams didn't know. They don't know their history. They don't know. And then I started asking Malays about their own country. They didn't know the history of their country. I asked my wife, my Dayak wife at the time, who divorced me when I became a Muslim because I became a Malay. I asked her, well, I looked into this, and then I started to study the history of the Dayaks and the Malays, and I said, whoa, what about this, what about this? She said, oh, I didn't know. Why don't they know? It's because the elite who are creating the myth don't want you to know. They remove it from the history books. They don't put it in the newspapers. And they don't like to publish the authors who write about it. They're thrown out of academic circles. That's what happens. Because they don't want you to know. Because they want you to maintain complete submission to the myth. Yes, Master. Yes, Dato. I'm coming. I'm coming. That's what's taking place. And when you understand the gap between the truth and the falsehood, it makes it easier for you to say, okay, Imran's right, let's go to the Muslim village. Let's say, yes, now I understand why I've kept that little house in the kampong. Now I understand it's time to go. Yeah, it's time to go. Because if you're in the city, when the Chinese cut off the supplies to this nation, you're going to be wanting to eat your neighbor within 5 to 6 days. Yeah, after your food stocks run out. And usually most people don't have much more than 3 to 5 days of food stocks in their house. They have to go out shopping every day, right? Especially if you're run out of water. Yeah. So that's why Imran and I, and even the Prophet said, when you see these things, he said, go live like the Bedouin. Yeah. Okay, did I answer that question, Mike? Okay, any other question? Do we have time?
Probably will. One more. Probably one more.
One more question? Okay. You have 2 questions. Okay, can't ignore her.
First of all, we do know that these cults have been existing for thousands of years in secrecy.
Yes.
But I've noticed of late through media, through TV, movies,
Mhm.
video games, especially, that they're starting to reveal themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, there's one particular game called Assassin's Creed,
Mm-hmm.
which is mainly about these assassins who are having a war
Mhm.
with the Templars
Mhm.
for a few centuries.
Mm-hmm.
And the intriguing thing about it is that they don Freemasonic symbols. So I was thinking, why are they revealing this now?
Okay.
Of all times.
Okay, I'll tell you why. What happens when there's this saying in the West, when the cat's away, the mice will play, right? So that means if you've got a rat in your house and he's hiding in the wall, if the cat goes outside, the rat's going to come out and get your cheese. So what he's describing is the result of the fact that righteous men and women are no longer in power to hold these people back. There's nobody to stop them now. So they're revealing themselves for who they really are. And they're trying to impress upon the new generation that it's okay to be greedy. It's okay to be selfish. It's okay to be sexually oriented so much that you want to satisfy your needs at any cost. Okay? It's okay to sleep around on your wife. It's okay to have a girlfriend. It's okay. All of these things used to be restrained by good men and good women who stand there and say, no, that's not going to happen. But when the kings of the earth took over Islam, there was no longer any opposition permitted. Yeah? If you stood up to oppose the caliph, you're arrested. Worse, you're just killed right away. So if there's no opposition, if there's no accountability, if there's no censorship, this is what happens, what you describe. Nobody is stopping these people, so they are revealing themselves. And the more they reveal, the more they control the minds of your children, the hearts of your children, and the more they are converting them to hedonism. Okay? They don't care. The Jews don't care. We control America, they say. We don't care what you think. We don't care what you write, because you can't stop us. Why can't you stop us? Because we've got all the guns. We've got all the power. Yeah? They've learned that power rules. Righteous men and women have forgotten that. Yeah? Did the prophet defend his people with the Quran? No, he defended his people with the sword. Remember, I said that authentic religion is defensive. An authentic polity is defensive. It will defend itself. What he's describing is because the polity has lost the ability to defend itself against this kind of wickedness. And the wicked people know it, and they don't care. Because they know you can't defend yourself. You're defenseless now. Why? Well, there's only one reason you're defenseless, because your leaders are corrupt. A righteous leader, a righteous man would never leave his home undefended, undefensible. Never. Would never happen. So, does that answer your question, sister? Not working.
Okay,
there we go.
I do get to ask my question. I think it can be answered quickly. Just two questions.
Yes.
Firstly, is that map you showed us, that was to me mind-blowing. The map of Greater Israel. That
Yes, yes.
And superimposed on the Shia positions currently.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? Yes.
And how do you see that in relation to what's happening right now between the negotiations that the Iranians are trying to do with the US to get them into the good books again? Secondly, there's a lot of weird events happening in Malaysia right now. For example, that chap who went around stabbing people, chanting. Okay, sorry, I forgot you don't read newspapers. It happened yesterday, I believe, or the day before. There was this runner who delivers cigarettes to a shop who ran amok and started stabbing people, went off in a car, knocked into them, stabbed and killed the drivers, two of them, different incidences. I'm just wondering whether this is part of the mind control. They're testing whether they can do it in Malaysia, because we already know they're doing it everywhere else. And, well, realistically, they're already here, but whether it's, actual experiments they're doing in preparation of something.
Okay. Thank you, sister. No, they're not related. They could be, but I would have to, my initial response would say no. Because as a medical doctor, I know that these incidents happen no matter where you are in the earth. It has nothing to do with some sort of political persuasion. Yes, there's an increased amount of violence that's being perpetrated by people who have been programmed since the Second World War, especially in the West. Can it happen here? Yes, it can happen here. But what you're calling is this running amok. This is amok. This is a traditional Malay culture. Okay, it has nothing to do with being mind controlled. It has everything to do with being mind oppressed. It's a difference. When you are continually repressing the truth and you're forbidden to express your opinion, or you're forbidden to offer the opinions of your superiors, this causes inner turmoil. And there's only so much of that a man can put up with, or a woman can put up with, especially if they can't make an honest living. Especially if they're, the cost of living is $3,000 a month and they're earning $1,500. You see, if they're oppressed to boot fiscally because their leaders are not permitting them to speak and their leaders are not giving them enough basic wage to live on, what's going to happen? Eventually, that man's going to break. Yeah. So something like that happened. some of these people are mentally disturbed. You know, it can happen. But because of, you know, don't run off, you know, trying to say, oh, it's because of this group or that group or the next group. No, it's because of your leadership. It's very simple. It's because of your system of governance. It's not a just system. It could be just, but only if you had just leaders. They're not. They're unjust. Okay? The proof of that is you have secular courts and Islamic courts, but yet they say they're Muslims. How can that be? How can that be? Even in the traditional caliphate, you had the Sharia court took care of the dhimmi. And the dhimmis preferred to come to sit in front of an Islamic faqih because they knew they would get better justice. Yeah? So why is it happening, sister? It's happening because the system is not just. And the justice is the walls of Darul Islam. Without justice, there is no Darul Islam. Everybody's pretending. Remember pretense from my diagram? It's a system of pretense. What happens when you're pretending? Fitna. Only fitna. It does not bring satisfaction. It does not bring real progress. It may bring material progress. Yes, it may be. It may bring material progress. And that's what your elite want. They want you to buy more material. They want you to produce more material. So their profit margins can go up. Okay, did I answer, sister? Thank you. Okay, I think that's our last question. So we can take a break now and come back in about, 10, 15 minutes?